This is not a 1998 Subaru Impreza. This is a 69 Camaro with a 427. It had a seized engine, so over the last few months I've gone through the whole car, fixed everything that was messed up, rebuilt the engine, and to put my Subaru on the lift I have to get this car out of the way, so I'm going to move it now. Here's the engine on the Camaro. It is a 427. It is bored 30 over, so it's about a 431 or 432. It has a modern serpentine belt pulley system by March. Edelbrock Victor Jr. heads, Edelbrock high-rise manifold. It has a Holley Avenger throttle body injection system. This is also not a 1998 Subaru Impreza. This car came into the shop for a complete suspension and drivetrain rebuild. It was originally a 327 car. Now it is a 454 4-speed. It has 4-wheel, 4-piston caliper disc brakes. I put a modern Chevy master cylinder, and every single piece of rubber on the car is new. Here's the engine on the 66 Corvette. It is a slightly built 454. It is a full roller motor. So I'm moving this out of the way also so I can get the Subaru on the lift. I have some new Yellow Speed Racing adjustable height coilovers for the Impreza. The front is kind of a trick. It's 2015 and newer STI knuckles. And on the rear, I'm going to be using the stock rear knuckle for now, but I need some height adjustability so that I can get the car set up where I want it, so I can start figuring out what I'm going to do for a wider rear wheel. I've run into a problem. I have no real lift point on the car anymore. So right now I have to lift the car by the rear suspension. In the front I still have a lift point, but since I cannot lift the car by the body or chassis, I can't change the rear suspension. So before I can get to the new rear struts or coilovers, I have to do some welding and make a proper lift point on the car. This is new structure. This is existing floor pan, and this is my new rocker panels. So I am going to attach my new rocker panel to the existing seam on the bottom of the car where the panels are pinch welded together. It is going to take some manipulation. So I will cut to a time lapse and get this thing welded in. For a lot of the new structural part of the floor, I used angle iron. That's weird, but it was easy. I will have to bend the floor pan up to meet it and put some welds in it, but it is a structural piece all by itself, so once I tie it to the roll cage, everything should be plenty strong, probably way heavier than I need. That's okay, because if my transfer case or drive shaft or transmission explode, they stay underneath the car, not in the car. So, weld, grind, weld. I have some lift points welded in the car now. I used some 1 5/8 DOM and some angle bracket, and then folded the bottom lip of the rocker panel over. And now I will get to putting on the new rear struts. Alright, moment of truth. Lines up, but it is way too high up there right now. I guess work smart, not hard. Before I put the new front coilovers on the car, while I have the car on the lift, I'm going to work on attaching the original floor to my new transmission tunnel thing. And the process is going to be pretty straightforward. The original floor is not as straight as the angle iron, so I'm going to put a jack underneath and slightly lift the floor up to meet the angle iron and put a series of tack welds. Now later on I'm going to blast the whole car and I will flip the car over and fully weld, or at least stitch weld, the entire floor to the new transmission tunnel, but for now I'm just going to add a series of tack welds every couple of inches. So there's the first side done, all the way from the back seat all the way to the footwell. It is not finished, but it's clean enough. I'd call that structural. I did a test fit, my 5-inch exhaust. Fits in there nice, everything clears. I have to cut a little bit more to make it fit. The driver's side of the floor is now welded into the angle iron that covers the new transmission and transfer case. It's nice and solid, needs finish welding and linishing or grinding as we call it on this side. Now that I have everything kind of put together where I want it, I added a lot more clearance for the drive shaft and transfer case than I think is really necessary. I put a mount right where the adapter plate is from the transmission adapter to the transfer case adapter. So it's transmission, adapter, 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 transfer case. The reason it's like that gives me the proper spacing to use the factory Corvette T56 output shaft into the transfer case. This is a Trailblazer SS unit, 1-speed Torsen helical gear center diff, so it's torque biasing more than 50 to front or rear as needed. I am going to use some more of these universal rubber bushings. It has a 14mm sleeve on the inside, so a 14mm bolt. That makes everything easy. It's bigger than I actually need, but every bushing on the car is going to be this eventually, including the lower control arms. So one set of tools will make it very easy to work on everything. So I'm going to put a transfer case mount back behind the transfer case up nice and high, somewhere back here, and that means I can trim off the rest of my adapter here. Means I can also remove my temporary transmission mounts here, which are made out of used Impreza suspension pieces. And when I do that, it means that I will be able to rework some of the floor underneath the driver's seat. I will be able to get at least an inch or more space back, and that'll make fitting in a more standard seat easier. But now I can get back to doing the front suspension. 1998 Subaru Impreza, 2015 plus STI 12.4 or 316mm rotor, rebuilt Brembo caliper, Rock Auto, hub knuckle from eBay for cheap. The trick here, if you want to put a 2015 or even a 2008 and newer STI drivetrain in your GC, is the coilover. There's a company called Yellow Speed Racing. They're in El Paso, Texas. They will give you a GC/GF specific coilover. It has the right spring rate for this car, and they can give you an STI lower thread-on knuckle bracket. It's real easy, and I called about 10 different coilover manufacturers. Yellow Speed was the only company that would do it. They were not very expensive either, and all the STI stuff, 8 and newer or 15 and newer, fits on the GC, direct bolt-on. Of course, the ball joint is the same on all the Subarus. And I got Brembos. They are rebuilt, and they were cheap. How cheap, you ask? $206 a piece. So, $400 for the calipers, and about $50 for the rotors. So, $500 for Brembos. The forums say you cannot buy rebuilt Brembos. You should only buy the used original or buy brand new from wherever. $500 or $3,000, your choice. And if you buy used Brembos, you're probably going to have to get knuckles and calipers and bearings and everything. So including my knuckles and hubs, bolt-in wheel bearing hub assembly, it's like $650. Only problem I have right now, I can't put a wheel on it with the caliper because I don't have a wheel that will fit. I don't know what the offset is going to be on the rear because I'm still running 5x100 knuckles. I am going to get different knuckles. I have a bolt-in bearing from a Mustang S550 and use a Brembo an SRT8 Brembo disc and caliper. So I'll have, you know, something like 316 millimeter on the front and 300 or 330 on the rear. Either way, it's going to be huge. I didn't really want brakes that big, but all of this whole thing is about this little hole right here. It's larger, so I can get better axles. Same on the rear. I don't really care if I have drum brakes or not, because even though this car is going to be fast, I don't drive that fast. But to get the right axles in the rear, if I go with something from Drive Shaft Shop, I will have to press out the hub, press in a new hub, one of theirs that's specific, or I can get something that's more common, like a Ford Mustang or a Camaro or a GTO hub and outer axle. That way I can have some 300M Porsche 930 style stub shafts, and then the whole CV axle will unbolt in the middle, so I don't have to take out the diff or the knuckle to get the axle out of the car if I ever have to, or if I ever break it. So, same thing on the front. I'm going to get a stub axle and then do a custom axle in the front. Of course, it has the Trailblazer Chevy inner. Nobody really makes uprated axles for those. There's a company that takes the stock axles and cryo treats them and does some kind of machine work on them, puts them back together. They're a tripod style CV axle. Not great, but I'm fairly confident I can get a stub axle from Chevy that's made for the passenger side of an older S10 or Cyclone and use it on both sides. Chevy kind of messed up. This front differential is made by AAM, and it has a weird, uncommon spline. The size is normal, but the spline count is unusual. The only thing I found that's even close are some front axles from a Nissan Sentra. They have the right diameter and spline count, but nobody makes aftermarket like S12 Sunny axles. So I may have to get a stock inner axle, ship it off, and have someone build me a stub flange that's the right size, and that's just how it goes on these. I wanted to use all stock axles or bolt-in upgraded axles, but it's not going to happen. So anyway, stock brakes for a 15 plus STI. Fit.